This is Marcus South, a.k.a. Mario the Moth Martinez from Lucha Underground, and you're watching the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. It's going to be fun.
Welcome to episode 203 of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined as always by Jason Brooks. Jason, we are back again. Coronavirus is still the main subject of the outside world and the wrestling world, but since the last time we were on, things kind of changed. About 3 minutes after our show ended last week, the world found out that Roman Reigns is not going to be part of Wrestlemania, and your wife enjoys kissing you as we start the show. So how's your day going?
Pretty good. Just some work meetings and doing some stuff. Some big. I mean, WrestleMania is turning into an absolute shit show. It's just the show itself looks fine, but the build up to some of these matches, we have not seen any build up to matches. Which again, I'm not blaming the WWE for any of this, other than the fact that they're having WrestleMania. That I'm squarely blaming them for. But the build for the show, I mean, they announced Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. I'm like, I forgot they were having a fucking match. It's crazy. So, and we'll talk about the Reigns thing. But, yeah, this is really devolved here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy situation where this event should have, we could talk blue in the face the fact that this event should have never happened with everything going on in the world, and the idea this is Vince McMahon just being stubborn, just like Dana White with the UFC, but that's for another type of podcast. But we're here. There's no turning back at this point. The show has been recorded. A lot of stuff has happened in the last week or so. I don't know if we'll get involved on who's replacing Reigns. We'll discuss that as we go along. But as most people know, Roman Reigns is out. He most likely should have never been in this situation to decide if to compete in the first place, due to the fact of with leukemia and his system not being up to, most likely.
He's immunosuppressed. He's immunosuppressed.
Right. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you for that. So, Vince McMahon most likely should have never let him be in this in the first place. I'm surprised a guy like Daniel Bryan, who's had problems over the years, was clear to be part of the show. We spoke about last week, Brie Bella on her podcast is very nervous about being involved. The Miz is out. Miz apparently got quite a bit of heat. The fact he was sick, coming in with coughing. Guys like Buddy Murphy were told to go home. They were sick. Out was out because of injury. So, this card keeps on evolving leading up to the tapings. And the card that we thought we were going to see at WrestleMania, a lot of it's still intact. But at the same time, it is going to be really weird, not just seeing it in an empty arena, but just seeing how they pull this off now.
The empty arena thing's the biggest thing. If they replace Reigns with somebody else, it'd be one thing. But they've got to replace multiple people. They've got to figure out how they're going to make this show look. A 3-hour long show in an empty arena is just going to be rough. For 2 nights. Shit, at least there's something to watch, right? But man, it's gonna be rough. It really is. So, we'll see, man. I don't know how they're gonna play this out. And I've noted this on Twitter at Work Shoot Pod. I still don't know what the fuck a boneyard match is. So I'm still waiting to hear about what
graveyard match. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, still waiting to hear. Will it be just a bunch of bones in a yard? So I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. It's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, let's get into first of all, as we get into Reigns here, anyone online who's being, I'm just put out strictly say, who's being an asshole, who's giving this guy crap, the idea that if you want to give him, say anything, the fact that last minute he decided to pull out the match where he actually realized that this was most likely was not a good idea.
Nope. There's no heat on him at all. There's pulling out last minute. He should get no heat from anyone for this. Totally. Whether he pulled out last minute, whether he pulled out right before, no matter, because he was trying to do what was best, and then he thought about it. The problem is he shouldn't have been put in this position at all. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I know I'm getting what you were saying.
Right. So like I said, I've seen things online where a bunch of these, keyboard warriors, as I think they're called, are going and giving him crack. he went to Roman Reigns actually put out a video on Instagram, I believe it was either yesterday or the day before, in regards to, saying to the haters, they don't know why he did what he had to do, but hopefully everyone, understands in the long run that he did what was best for him.
I mean, here's the thing, Corey. 99% of people get it. So, I mean, sometimes I get it. I get where Reigns is at, but sometimes I do get annoyed by people on Twitter, on social media saying the haters. Like 99% of people totally get it. You're immunocompromised. Like, they get it, right? There's going to be idiots everywhere. I don't love the fact that he even acknowledged them. I think that's part of what keeps this going with negative people, right? Negative people in our country get attention.
Sure.
And sometimes the positive doesn't get thrown in as much. So for every negative comment, he's probably gotten 20 positive comments. So sometimes I think as people, I'm not blaming him necessarily. I get that he's upset, but I think sometimes just as a society, we spend too much time, putting an emphasis on the negative, rather than the good that's going on. Because I'm sure a lot of people are very understanding of the situation. And again, it's pro wrestling at the end of the day. Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, right now it's basically our only form of entertainment that's out there. But one thing I want to get into, and Jay, I understand that you're going to have a slightly different point of view on this because there's nothing that the company could have done. But basically, like I said, when we did the show this past Thursday at around, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock yours, Ryan Sand from Pro Wrestling Sheet broke the story that Reigns was not going to be competing in the show. They air their show on Friday. SI, ESPN, all of these news sites, some real, some fake, some sites were telling everybody that Roman Reigns was out of the show. I understand that you got to keep with storylines, but for 2 hours, you were telling people he was still in the match. You can't even put something on there just saying the idea that things change, we'll have more information. You even put a thing out for next week. We're going to have another, stare down or whatever between him and Goldberg. I'm guessing that's how they're going to set up however they take him out of the match. But for 2 hours, you even have an insert from Triple H saying who he thinks is going to win the match. I mean, everybody knows he's not in the match. Stop promoting the goddamn match.
But Corey, that's the issue with not live TV. They had already taped WrestleMania at that point. I think they taped everything, and I get what you're saying. It wasn't a great look, but it's one of those things where it's goofy. They shouldn't have done it. They're also showing replays of random matches on their shows, but to a certain extent, they don't have a choice, right? They taped the show already, and if they decide to leave stuff out, then they've got to scramble. When I don't know if anybody's even in Florida and around right now to do any of these tapings. I don't know who's there, who's not there. So, yes, in a perfect world, I would have loved for them to have gone back and to have changed things. And they usually are really, really good at that. That's one of their big strengths. In this case, we're undergoing some different circumstances. I'm sure no one who watched SmackDown, I'm pretty sure everyone who watched SmackDown knew that. And if they don't know, they will find out or we'll know that information. I agree that they maybe could have done something different, but it's very possible that they couldn't have, that they had stuff in the can. They had a Triple H segment. They had certain things going on already, and it was going to be hard for them to change. So, in this case, I get what you're saying for sure, but in this case, I'm going to try to be a little bit more understanding.
Well, all right, last thing on this, and we'll move on. But, all right, they couldn't change it on Friday. We still saw them promoting the match on Monday. What's the excuse for that one? I mean, you can't have someone on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday afternoon, shoot a quick, 20-second thing or have some sort of insert with Triple H saying, the match has, we know that Roman Reigns is something has happened. We'll have more information on SmackDown. Roman Reigns is out of the match, or
or maybe they're waiting for SmackDown to tell you that information. The other thing is they taped SmackDown, so they taped the show already. So I don't know. Maybe he told them before. I mean, because they taped probably everything right in a row.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess the rumor is Strowman's going to be in the match. Is that what I heard?
Slight spoiler for those who did not know. Roman Reigns, apparently from what has been reported, Roman Reigns went and decided he wasn't going to be in the match, and he handpicked Strowman to go be his replacement.
Listen, if you're listening to this show, I mean, normally we're very anti-spoiler, whatever. All this information's out there. I mean, what are we talking about here? The thing is, he handpicked Strowman to be in the match, and we can talk about who's going to win these matches or whatever. But God, what kind of match is that going to be? Oh yeah, Goldberg and Strowman. Oh, I mean, Roman Reigns is no Ric Flair in the ring, but Strowman certainly isn't. Corey, I agree. I think they're under very difficult circumstances. So, I'm going to give them a little bit of an out here. But SmackDown, I don't know what they're going to do. I have no idea. Is Strowman going to come out and cut a promo? Is like what's going to happen? I don't know.
Goldberg, you want these hands? I mean, that's the. I'm guessing that's what they'll do. They'll set up something where Strowman, takes out Roman Reigns in the back, and Goldberg says, I need an opponent. You're next, or whatever. I mean,
No boy.
I mean, it's a little funny that I mean, I don't know how much you followed this whole type thing over the past week with Evil Uno from the Dark Order put out a thing in regards to with the coronavirus, with wrestlers who are independent contractors saying please support us by buying our merch and different things, and help us out. And then Strowman, who's forgotten the fact that life is tough out there for people, went and said people should not be online begging people to support them. If you can't survive in the industry, get a real job or whatever. And if of course, then took it offline.
Not a good look for Strowman.
Not a good look, but he went from doing that to possibility winning the world title, in 2 days. I mean, we'll get more into on Thursdays, our regular show on Thursdays, on who we think is going to win some of these matches. But as you said, this match is not going to be most likely good.
This won't be Ric Flair versus Steamboat in '87. So keep your expectations real low. Yeah, and Strowman, I mean, the look was terrible. Strowman seems like he has done a lot of actually good things, a lot of charity work, and people really seem to respect him and like him backstage. So
he's apologized, apparently.
It seems like he's done some good stuff, but man, that was a bad look. That was a really bad look because that's not what's happening here. You know what I mean? People aren't saying, "Hey, help me," because I'm begging for it. Like I think it was pretty disgusting, really, really disgusting. Right. What he did.
Now, so from what we know in regards to this whole entire Roman Reigns thing, from what's come out from a bunch of reliable sources, from the Dave Meltzers, the Sean Ross Sapps, our own buddy Jason Powell has said that from what they've heard, that the day of the tapings, the Miz, who is going to be in part of, I guess, this three-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles in the ladder match, he came in sick. And the Usos were not, by no means were thrilled with him. And Roman Reigns saw him being sick, and then all of a sudden, 1 + 2, 1 + 1 = 2, and he was like, you know what, this is not the right idea. I'm not doing the match. And then, like I said, went and said, I'm picking Strowman to be my replacement. And now Miz has apparently a bunch of heat. You could say whatever you want that Miz is a company guy. He's never missed a day of work. I mean, I don't know if Miz should be, what type of heat he should get. We don't know every side of that story.
Yeah.
But, Miz, who supposedly is pretty smart from everything you hear outside of the ring, being able to, make a career out of this from being, a reality star to begin with. I don't know how much, blame he should get for all of this. But, you shouldn't be coming into this type of situation in regards to coughing and sneezing and thinking everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean,
like I said, we don't know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here's the thing. If he came in sick, that's bad, right? Like we've already talked about this, but again, we are doing this thing where we want to shame everybody and everybody wants to we want to shame everybody and everybody's selfish, everybody's terrible, whatever. There's a chance he could have taken his temperature and felt like he was okay. Also, seasons have changed, right? So people are getting allergies. So that's a part of what's going on too. So I don't want to. It's hard. It's a hard thing because I think people want to hear someone say he's a terrible piece of shit and blah blah blah. Like I don't know. Maybe he did take his temperature. Maybe it is. Maybe he has seasonal allergies and it's the season's changed, right? So it's hard. But on the surface, it seems like a pretty selfish decision from the Miz for sure. And I will say this: the Usos had every right to be upset with him. Every right to be upset with him that he showed up sick and their cousin is immunocompromised. So to me, like that, it absolutely they had a right to be upset, with him and not at least calling and saying, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. What do you guys advise I do?" Right. Let someone know what's happening before you just fucking show up. I think that's where I really have an issue with Miz. At least letting people know what's going on before you just show up sick.
I totally agree. And like I said, we don't know all the information. We're hearing from different sources that are usually pretty reliable. At the same time, until we know more, there's not much else we can say on it. Last thing on the whole entire Roman Reigns situation, unless you have other stuff. Do you think that was there a better choice than Strowman from what we know? I mean, I put on a Work Shoot Pod on our Twitter. I put up a poll on different people, putting maybe Bray Wyatt, possibly making it a three-way between Wyatt, Cena, and Goldberg because Wyatt was the last champion. Playing off of I know that nobody cares about Twitter, but you've had the whole entire beef with Riddle, doing something special there, maybe building a star. Kofi Kingston, who've never gotten, a rematch, maybe someone else. What do you think of, or the choice with Strowman? What was your choice?
The thing about the Riddle thing is an interesting thing. The one thing is what's going to build Riddle as a star is the audience accepting him, right? And there's nobody there. So I think that's a hard thing. I think Strowman probably was the best choice given the circumstances. You don't want to break up the Cena Wyatt feud. I don't think. I think that's been an interesting storyline. So there's the train in the background. So I don't think you want to change that up. So I think Strowman probably was the best bet. I think if there was an audience there, I think the Riddle thing would have been interesting. But with no audience there, I think Strowman is the best bet.
Yeah, like I said, I would have just to shake things up. Especially with, bringing in I got random guys in who you didn't even know were on the main roster until yesterday. I would have gone with Matt Riddle because I think it would have been an interesting, story.
Yeah, but Corey, what? There's no audience there there's no story there. How are they going to build up this story in 2 days? A lot of people don't know what this story is. We know the story. We're marks, right? Not everybody knows this story. We have to remember WrestleMania is for the masses.
Right.
We aren't the mass that they're talking about. Now, if it was a thing where Goldberg still had the title during SummerSlam and things maybe got back to normal, then maybe you start talking about their Twitter stuff. You start doing promos with Riddle. You start doing promos with Goldberg. Then I think it would be interesting to do that. But in 2 days, and you just have a random match, and then Goldberg beats him in a random match, and then that's it. That's it. You lose the story. Riddle looks like an asshole, and then that's it. So I don't agree with that. But I get what you're thinking is. I think just where we are right now and everything that's going on, I don't know if it's the right time.
What about Kofi? Once that changed, put Big E in in whatever match they were doing with the ladder match, or I guess maybe Kofi will be in the ladder match or whatever they're going to do with that. And
I guess, but they could have done that. That would have been fine. None of these choices are, really inspiring, but they could have done Kofi. That he never lost the title, that sort of thing. They could have done that.
Well, never got his rematch for the time.
Never got his rematch, I should say. It's tough because then you think you really kind of want a heel to go against Goldberg. He probably works better as a heel, but Strowman is a baby face too. it's really a tough circumstance. I'm good with Strowman because if Strowman goes against him and loses, it doesn't really hurt Strowman. And then Goldberg can lose it, a month from now at the next show. Or you got Strowman win a title and it makes a little bit more sense because he's not caught up in a storyline like Kofi is. So I think Strowman's just an easier guy to go with right now.
Makes sense. And like I said, so
going from basically not on the card to the main event.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how things just happen. You go from being, somewhat of a pariah based on, statements you've made and different things to being the savior for the card.
I don't know if he's saving the card necessarily. They could have just canceled the Goldberg match; it would have been fine.
Yeah, but it might have been more entertaining that way. So moving on, what are your thoughts on? I know you said WrestleMania sells itself, but what are your thoughts on? We're about 4 days away from WrestleMania. What's your feelings on WrestleMania as we get basically to the home stretch here? You excited? You just No,
you know what? I'm going to be home like everybody else should be. Please stay home. Saturday night, having nothing to do, and it's going to be something to watch. That's about where my excitement level is. I am curious. I'm curious more than excited. How are they going to do these matches? How are they going to make them look on TV? How are they going to do last man standing match? I think the last man standing match might be the match that actually does the best because they can. It's kind of like the old Mick Foley Rock empty arena match back in the day, where they just beat the shit out of each other all over the arena. And that was one of my favorite matches. So if they do something like that, I think that could be, pretty interesting. As far as the rest of the card, I mean, I don't know. How do they break things up? So I'm more curious than excited about anything. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. I mean, I'm more interested on stuff going on outside the ring more than inside in regards to the TV deals that are going on right now and how people are interested or not interested in these tape shows in regards to we once again, and it's the norm. You go from the first 10 minutes of Raw with a promo to basically having 40 minutes of last year's main event of WrestleMania with the three-way with the women, where I basically went and walked away for 40 minutes, went online, saw that Evolved had put up free matches from some of their old shows. I watched that for 40 minutes. They put up a match of Orange Cassidy versus Velveteen Dream. I watched that. I did something else for those 40 minutes, came back, Shayna Baszler choked out, our women's champion, Lynch, and then, moved on and saw the other stuff on the show. The best thing to come out of this is most likely we're seeing, some actually pretty solid promos, otherwise these shows have been just like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, they've been a little rough. They've been rough. It's rough to watch this many shows in a row with no audience. You realize, I think, watching these shows, how important the audience is in the character development, in just your enjoyment of the shows. The audience really is such an important part. And we're seeing the lack of the audience, and I think that's really hurting the shows and the energy. It's the energy of these shows I think has really been taken away.
I totally agree. I mean,
and that's the one thing about WrestleMania that really worries me is where's the energy going to come from? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, moving on. Unless there was something really interesting from Raw that you would like to talk about. I mean, like I said, with some good promos, some good closing heat for the Owens. As much as Seth Rollins made Owens look like a nobody where he just didn't respond, but Owens had a solid promo coming back. I thought Edge had another solid promo. I thought that Undertaker had for the Undertaker a decent promo.
Anything stuck out? I think that's Undertaker's promo was fine. He's talking about how Michelle McCool made AJ's finisher. I don't understand that at all, but it's a very strange promo. It's a very strange build to that feud. The Edge promo was fantastic. He's been great since he came back, and I think I'm actually looking forward to that match. That is the match that I'm actually excited about on the show for sure. And yeah, I think it's that build with everything that's going on. That build was that's been the best build to any match that they've had on the show, for sure, by far. So yeah, definitely some good promos. I thought that Owens promo was really good. So yeah, definitely some good stuff.
All right, so one thing that we had spoken about since the show had come back has been, the rumors that Wrestlemania might not have been on the network this year because at a conference call, Vince McMahon had mentioned that there was ideas of over-the-top different ways in the first quarter of next year, and everybody was going, oh no, WWE Network was basically going to be really a non-entity anymore. And now we found out that Fight TV and Fox Sports are going to be offering WrestleMania. Basically, if you get the 2 days, I believe it's going to be like $60 for both. And if you get one, I think it's going to be like $29. What do you think, Jay, in regards to this for this week's 2 shows and the idea of what this could mean maybe for the future?
Yeah, it seems like, there's been some confusion. Even when we talked about it before the show, I was kind of confused as to what's going on. So if you either pay for both nights, or you pay for one night, or you pay for both, it seems like pretty confusing. And I don't know if the companies have done a good job of letting you know how to do this. Obviously, TNT is in line with, they own Bleacher Report, and so they are in line with AEW. So when they do AEW pay-per-views, it'll be sponsored through them. I know sometimes. Same thing with Fight TV. Fight TV's been involved too. So it seems like a similar model. Fox Sports, WWE, AEW, TNT. So it seems like a similar model in terms of some of the pay-per-views and how they've done that. And then Fight TV being involved with both. I don't know. I mean, they definitely haven't been advertising the network like they used to. They definitely haven't been like, oh, get the network and you'll get WrestleMania for free. They used to do that pretty often. And you could tell me I could be totally wrong.
No.
I don't know how often they've been putting over the pay-per-view stuff on Raw and SmackDown either. I don't know if they've been talking a lot about it. I feel like this is a pretty recent development.
It was today.
Yeah, so that's the other issue. How do you watch this thing? And have they been advertising it enough? So it sounds like the WWE is kind of in transition on what they want to do with their pay-per-views moving forward. Probably not the best time right now to be doing that because, a lot of people economically not doing well. I know people are going to get this magic $1,200 check apparently, but that's still not going to cure all ills, especially for people in the service industry and whose jobs rely on the public. So I don't know, but if you have the network, I guess you still get it for free. So, I think there's just some confusion, and it sounds like they're just working out the kinks, and we'll see what. And it also wasn't supposed to be 2 nights originally, so that's also the other kind of confusing thing. So, just a lot of confusion. It sounds like Dave Meltzer kind of said the same thing on Wrestling Observer. So, yeah, they're kind of figuring things out. But in terms of your other question about does this become a model for the future, very possibly. I don't know about the 2 nights thing, although I think that's not a bad idea because I think WrestleMania is way too long. But definitely the idea of doing something with Fox Sports and having that be, a streaming pay-per-view service moving down the road, because we talked about how they tried to do something with ESPN, and it doesn't sound like that's going to work out necessarily. So, we'll see what happens with Fox.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess we now know why they only where ESPN was airing, certain WrestleManias the last 3 weeks. The ones that they weren't airing, Fox Sports 1 is going to be airing, I guess, this weekend leading into WrestleMania. I mean, so both Fox Sports 1 and ESPN realized pretty fast that wrestling has done pretty good ratings. I mean, still not, over 1 million for these replay views, but I mean, the WrestleMania 32 this past weekend still had over 700,000, and people watching. So ratings have been down. So I think the idea of people watching wrestling as their outlet maybe isn't super sustainable, but it's still, for these networks, it's still a viable alternative to people just watching, replay at Sports Center, I guess, every 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's something different, and so, something different to show. They have literally no other options. So let's throw in some wrestling and see what happens.
Agreed. I guess let's move on to the other company that we talk about most in this show nowadays. AEW has finished it, taping shows, but yesterday they announced on their Road to show that we will be getting a secondary title. Jay, I don't know if you've heard what the name of the secondary title will be, but a lot of companies have TV titles. ROH has one, NWA has one. AEW is not going to have a TV title. They're going to have an 8-man tournament starting next week, and the name of the tournament, for the name of this title, it's going to be the TNT Championship. What's your initial thoughts on the name?
AEW's made a lot of really good positive moves, some false steps.
Mm-hmm.
The naming of this title, maybe not a huge false step. Like, it's probably fine, and it'll be fine in a couple of weeks. But the name sounds real goofy. It sounds real goofy. Just call it the TV title. That's whatever. Cody wants to talk about history, and he's got Arn Anderson there. They got Jake the Snake. They got Tully Blanchard. Arn Anderson, a great TV champion. Tully Blanchard, a great TV champion. It'd be a cool thing to kind of have them, be there when that TV champion, maybe it'll be Sean Spears, but, be there when that TV champion's crowned and make a big deal of it. And you have a lot of former TV champions there. So they can make a really cool thing of it. Maybe they'll do that with the TNT title. But it sounds like the goofiest name ever. I definitely think that this is MJF's probably title to lose.
Really? MJF?
He's probably. I would think he probably is the favorite, but we'll see. I think the name is goofy, but it's good to have a secondary title. But man, doing it this time is just, gosh, it's just these empty arena matches, and it's just going to be brutal. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, so what they're doing is tonight on Dark, they'll name the first 4 competitors, and then on Dynamite on Wednesday, they'll name the final 4, and I believe the tournament will start the following week. And if there is a Double or Nothing pay-per-view, which they're still crossing their fingers, and I think at this point, I'm going to guess, less than 50-50 chance of happening.
And that's going to be in May, right? It was May last year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend, whichever one is the falls first.
Okay. I mean, I think by then they may be able to have a show. I just don't know if they'll be able to have. I don't think they'll be able to have an audience.
Well, that show is supposed to be in Las Vegas. Mm. We'll see if that happens. But
their Vegas is closed. Just so you guys know, the Strip is closed, but it looks like they might try to open the casinos up sometime in May. That's the rumor you hear. I don't know if that's for sure, but if that's the case and they are able to, then I think that'll open things up. But with as much as these cases continue to fly and go nuts, I think we anticipate stuff that's going to happen. And then these numbers continue to rise, and they were like, shit, we can't do that. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, I can tell you personally, I go every year, I do this, kind of guys trip with my college buddies. I'm flying from Chicago to New York in April. My flight was canceled. They canceled the flight. So if you can't fly from Chicago to New York, I can't imagine where you can fly from. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how kind of crazy that this all continues to get.
Yeah, true. But that's an interesting idea, though. MJF being the first guy with this title. I mean, I actually think MJF may be the next contender for Moxley.
Well, they're setting Hager up for that.
Well, I think they could do Hager on TV. I think that's most likely because you have that so much time in between shows. At least I would think Hager would be an in between guy. Have them have a TV feud. Then MJF maybe at Double or Nothing. But I think this is the perfect idea. If Cody can't go for the world title because of that stip, you got the secondary title. He's still most likely the biggest face in the company. And if you want, you could set this up where one side of the bracket has Lance Archer, other side has Cody. Two of them meet in the finals at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And that's a way that, just like you had with the Young Bucks put over Private Party, to make them stars, which we never see anymore.
They gone.
Yeah, they're somewhere. I don't even think we see them on Dark ever. But I could see them doing something like that, where maybe an established star loses to somebody in this tournament to help. They'll build them like they did with the idea of Private Party. But I don't know. I think the secondary title. If it wasn't for Corona, this would be a very good time. Company's doing well. Company's now been around for 4 or 5 months. Slowly put out a secondary title for some of these guys who aren't in the world title picture. Help put over another star. It definitely was the right idea not to do women's tag team titles, which was spoken about at one point.
No, we don't need to do anything more with the women except establish their characters. Let's establish their characters. If they go to 3 hours, maybe they could do something. Which means they'd have to get a lot more women on the roster. I don't know who Shayna is or Shanna is. I've never heard from Penelope Ford. Let's work on that.
Yeah. So like I said, it's going to be another interesting couple of weeks on what AEW is going to do. They apparently, are taped for a couple of weeks, just like WWE.
Yeah.
Apparently, I guess they've shot a couple of things off at different locations for these next few weeks. I don't know if you got a chance to see being the Elite this week, but
not yet.
But not really a spoiler, but I guess the Young Bucks were not at the tapings because they're quarantined in, basically in
Cucamonga. And Nick Jackson just had his third kid too. So
congratulations to Nick Jackson. And also, speaking of congratulations, friend of the show, former guest Sean Rhimes recently had a second child. So congratulations to him. Hopefully we'll have him back on the show sooner than later.
Sean Reamer.
That's why you're
congratulations, Sean and Nicole.
Sean and Nicole, congratulations on that. But any other subjects that you want to talk about today before we call it a day? Before we do this again in another 2 days?
Yeah, no, this is a quick show. Just wanted to kind of give you guys some content while you're sitting at home, not doing shit, washing your hands, just constantly washing your hands. Just wanted to kind of give you guys some content. And we also are bored and not doing much right now. Just wanted to give you guys some content and throw some stuff on there for you. Hope to do this again in a couple of days. We'll actually preview WrestleMania. This preview is going to be interesting, Corey, in terms of what you think as opposed to what I think. And I think sometimes we talk about what we're gonna what our decisions are going to be. I think we should not talk about it at all before the show. We should just preview all the matches. Mm-hmm. I don't care about all the gimmick matches, but the big matches I think would be interesting to see what you think as opposed to what I think. Also, I think another thing that we should talk about on Thursday is what the fuck they're gonna do after Monday's Raw. What are they gonna do after that? What's that gonna look like? So anyway, that's something to talk about for Thursday's show for sure.
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Wednesday Night War. We'll talk about who gets in those final spots for the ladder match on NXT women's match. Talk about the NXT North American title. We'll also talk about week 2 of the very interesting season 2 documentary of Beyond the Ring. This week we'll have New Jack, who is a very interesting character inside and outside of the ring. One of the forefathers of extreme wrestling and someone who basically lived the gimmick inside and outside the ring because he wasn't a gimmick. But we will be sure to check that out on Viceland tonight. Be sure, of course, always to check out Jason and myself on Twitter at WorkShootPod, at Paladin808 for me. be sure to check out the other podcast on the FAMDO network, which we are still working on a website, which should hopefully be out shortly.
Ooh, a fancy website. Who's doing this website, Corey? You doing it?
No, one of the producers of You Don't Know Jackie, Brandon Caraja, his wife will be working on the site.
Oh, nice. Are we gonna? So the Work Shoot podcast is gonna be on there as well?
You damn well hope so.
Okay, all right. I like that. Maybe we can even do some blogging occasionally too.
Well, Lord, when you said you mean you, right? I haven't had enough time, talking on text, actually writing out words.
Yeah, yeah. Just so you guys know, Corey is an absolute horrendous texter and has not improved after all these years. And maybe your boy can make an appearance on You Don't Know Jackie.
Hey, whenever you want to do it.
All right.
Introduce.
All right, I'm down. I mean, I have a lot of time in my hands, as we've talked about.
But Jason, let's do what we always do. I think the final word is yours.
I think we're done here. See ya.